Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Real Sports Scope. I'm your host, Robert Butler, on this 12th day of November. Happy uh, Veterans Day. I know that was yesterday and whatnot, but got a great show with you on for tonight. Nico Harrison was fired yesterday, and also Brian DeBall. We'll talk about that from the New York Giants, of course, Dallas Mavericks, Nico Harrison. Also, I have a suggestion for the Buffalo Bills because I got a feeling where this is going, plus the NFL Power 5 and more. Stand by. We'll take our first and only break, and I'll be back here momentarily and hit the ground running here on the Real Sports Scope.
Hello, Sports Scope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and Sports Scope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to sports, that is sports with an S, another S, scope, SKOPE, at gmail.com, just like it's listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy the program.
All righty, then I'm back here live. So the Giants fired Brian DeBall Monday, actually, and keep the defensive coordinator Shane Bowen. When the defense, folks, is ranked 31st against the run with Dexter Lawrence, Brian Burns, Kayvon Thibodeau, and, of course, Abdul Carter, who they drafted with a third pick overall. You can make the argument that it was the Bulls' call to hire Shane Bolden, but why not fire Bolden as well? You know, the ball didn't look good. Pressure in the doctor. You remember the thing with the doctor in the tent there on the Thursday game when Jackson Dart looked like he was being evaluated for a concussion. He was later fined $100,000 for that. And just, you know, you start to get all that. I lost my Brian DeBall notes here. You start to look at that as it really adds up, and a plus a 20-40 record there for the ball. Looks like I bet that's probably. Hey, how's it going? How's it going? Gutters 226. So my thing is, you know, you got 4 total concussions, folks, for that Jackson Dart's been evaluated for. You want to put that on the ball? Well, the fine for the fine there for the ball and the organization, $200,000. That didn't look good at all whatsoever. Like I said, but you also have to look at it from this perspective. You've got I may have cut him some slack considering that Darius Slayton's only got back a few weeks here. Malik Neighbors was done for the season. They traded away Saquon Barkley, you know, and of course Cam Scatterboo was hurt as well. So, you know, it's not impressive. I would have probably gave him another year with Dart, and I would have simply fired hello, Asper Yep 895. How's it going? Well, got a great audience tonight, folks. I really appreciate this. I know a lot of people's popping up on the screen. Hadn't had this many in a while. Anyways, and of course, showing he is being picked to go out and search for the new coach. You know, he's the general manager of this organization. And here's the thing. I was okay. And for those of you who've been watching Sports Go for a while, I was okay with them letting Barkley go. But here's my thing. Why don't you trade him? Even if you get a later round pick, Why don't you trade him beforehand instead of try to sign him and then let him walk out, and then he goes to the rivals and sticks it right down your throat there, going to the Philadelphia Eagles. So that being said, yeah, they were 2-8. Again, they were 20-40. I did like the fact, and this is probably what the ownership's looking at, that they did draft Abdul Carter. Looks to be a hit at the number 3 pick. And, of course, they moved back in and got Jackson Dart. That's probably what's saving his job, per se. And he's probably simply on John Mara's good side. But as far as replacements are concerned for Brian Daboll, a lot of talk has been coming up about Lane Kiffin. And I know that Kiffin is I know that Lane Kiffin has been mentioned in a lot of jobs. Jeez, he's been mentioned in the Florida job. He's brought up in the LSU job. And, you know, my thing is that I don't know if he even wants to come back to the NFL. I've been thinking about it. The biggest problem this team is, listen, just hear me out here, folks. I just mentioned the fact that their off defensive line has guys like Lawrence, Abdul Carter, Kayvon Thibodeau. I mean, you got that kind of athleticism on your defensive line, and you're towards the bottom of the league in run defense. Okay? That's one thing about here in Tennessee, going back to the Jeff Fisher days. He's defensive-minded head coach, and this guy was always about running the ball up the middle and all that nonsense. But I'll say this, going back about 15 years here, they did have Albert Haynesworth here on the defensive line. And guys like Javon Curse and whatnot over the years, they could still stop the run. But you look at the fact this team's towards the bottom of the league in run defense and getting ran on like nobody's business, per se. And with those kind of athletes. So my thing is, you know, a lot of people keep bringing up, like I said, I mean, obviously Mike McCarthy's name's been brought up. He's going to be brought up with every job. I mentioned him with the Titans the other day. Okay. Lane Kiffin's name's been brought up, and I just mentioned him. College jobs, pro jobs, whatnot. Colin Coward's got Lane Kiffin going everywhere. My thing is, how about this? Brian Flores doing more with less, a wizard at the defensive side of the ball. He'll tighten that defense up with this Giants team, I think, in a New York minute. But also, you look at the quarterback coach here, and I was curious to see who Kevin O'Connell, Minnesota, had on his squad there, and on the coaching staff. Josh McDowell. Does that sound familiar? Well, it should. McCown here, Josh McCown, 18 years in NFL, backup quarterback, play quarterback in NFL. I think that if you could set that combination with the Brian Flores, who excellent defense, he'll get that. With that personnel, that is easy to sell. That is when you got that front four like that, very easy to sell to a defensive-minded head coach here. And you got what looks to be a franchise quarterback on a rookie contract there, per se. Bring him on over McCown. That's a combination. I would at least talk to Flores and see what he would think about possibly bringing a McCown over, which is the current quarterback coach over there in Minneapolis, and possibly work it out with Jackson Dart. Of course, you know, going back to Lane Kiffin, yeah, he coached Dart in college, but I don't know if he still wants to come back to NFL. It looks like he's going to get an extension, or at the end of the season, at least listen to Florida and maybe LSU, per se. So anyways, got some people popping on here. Free Palestine. I don't know where these guys are just ambushing my live stream here, which this is a sports show. Maybe this is where all these people come from. I don't know. Hey, what you doing? Hello. Anyways, well, I'm glad to have a good following here. Either way, if not, unless you're just trying to essentially, you know, I don't know, troll me or whatnot. And I had a feeling that's what it was. All right. So that's my take. I would look at Flores, obviously look around the league. I think this is a pretty attractive job, believe it or not. The offensive line's not that bad. If you can keep those two tackles healthy, you probably need a running back there. Although I know they got Scatterboo. He's a fourth round pick. He's coming back from injury. Maybe add another receiver. I was looking at one of the mock drafts, actually, and it said that I was looking at one of the mock drafts, and I want to say they had them taking a receiver out of Ohio State. And I forgot his name now. But this was from the Mel Kiper mock draft. They're starting to do it really early now. It's freaking out November. But either way, that's food for thought. Well, some people brought up Bill Belichick. Save that name, folks. Save that name. Bookmark that. Brian DeBall fired. I do think it's somewhat of an attractive job because it looks like Jackson Dart can play. He's got to stay out of harm's way. He can't be Sam Darnold, which is Sam Darnold at the beginning of his career, which is running head first in the end zone and using his head to get around. Okay, that's the thing that Sam Darnold did a lot early in his career. So did Daniel Jones. Sorry to say Mac Jones. Anyways, okay. Speaking of the Bills, meanwhile, because these guys come from Buffalo. Buffalo goes down to Miami with a big win, off of a big win over Kansas City. And again, they give up 197 yards rushing, 6.2 yards per rush, totally blown out by a team destined to fire their coach in Miami's Mike Macdonald. And already had fired their general manager. As I mentioned last week, my biggest disappointment of the NFL trade deadline 1 week ago from today was that they didn't do anything. They're resting on their laurels from one game. They should have did something to the defensive line as far as trade deadline, linebacker, you name it, particularly defensive line. Add some depth there. And, of course, they did nothing. And the very next week, they get blown out 30-13 by the lowly Miami Dolphins. You know, the Titans up here in Nashville were rumored to be shopping second-year player DeAndre Sweat, defensive tackle, second-round pick for Texas. You know, listen, Sean McDermott's a defensive-minded head coach, but they can't stop the run. Again, same issue with the New York Giants on a consistent basis. I doubt this team wins a Super Bowl this year. And my message, folks, my message for Bills owner, I had to look this guy up. I didn't know who this guy was. Terry Pegula. I think I got that right the first time. The current Buffalo Bills owner, Mr. Pegula. Listen, Bill Belichick's buyout is practically peanuts down there in North Carolina. You know, and I know he's starting to get it together. They've won a few games here. Team's starting to look disciplined down there. But you pair him with the Josh Allen, per se, all right? And he has multiple years of connections where Brian DeBall, he's taken a few position coaches under Bill Belichick. Bring Belichick up. Brian DeBall's available, right? It's less than $1 million buyout, by the way, from Belichick to take from the North Carolina job, okay? So go out, offer Bill Belichick the job, bring in Brian DeBall to work with Josh Allen, which he's already had success with. He comes back to Buffalo. A lot of motivation there. Bill Belichick, who will not let New England Patriots scouts in the locker room or in and around the players at North Carolina. A little petty. I wish he would get past that. But either way, he won't let anybody. He wouldn't. And the fact that the Patriots are winning now, he would love to stick it back to Robert Kraft and win another Super Bowl without Tom Brady and without the under the New England Patriots are working under Robert Kraft. So they're beefing. So listen, Mr. Pagella, owner, Buffalo, because you're the decision maker. You're the shot caller, okay? Go down there. It's not going to work out. I mean, they were my and hopefully I'm right, but I don't think so. Buffalo Bills preseason pick, win the Super Bowl. That run defense is going to catch up with them like it always does every single year. And McDermott's he's to blame there. Some of that on the GM. But Bill Belichick will fix that run defense, folks. He will fix that run defense up in Buffalo. And Brian DeBall, working with your quarterback there, it's perfect. It's perfect. And he would love it more than to stick it to the New York Giants there. The New York Giants there in the same state there to play in the same state name. I know technically they play in East Rutherford, New Jersey. I think that is the ultimate game to be played in the offseason if they don't get to the Super Bowl and win it. The Buffalo Bills, fire McDermott, Bill Belichick, Brian DeBall. It's perfect. The team's there. All they need is a coaching. Because he's going to stop that run. He's going to stop that run. And the rise that this Patriot team is on, that's exactly what they need. That's exactly what they need. So that's my take, one of my big takes for tonight, folks. All righty then. Anywho, so, all right. I got some people in here. Got a good crowd here. I don't know what, a lot of people bouncing on tonight. It may have been someone that I don't know. I don't know who these folks are. But then again, I've been advertising. A lot of people here that I do Uber with. They scan the pro. And by the way, hats off to all my Uber riders who subscribed to the channel here. Talked to a guy from New York yesterday, big Knicks fan. Brother, I forgot you. I didn't catch your name. I forgot your name. I think it might have been Josh, but I'm not sure. I know you're from, grew up in, Lower East Side. My man was here. He works for Amazon. I want to say with the Amazon conference here. Appreciate you checking out the program here, But I just want to thank all my Uber riders who scanned the back seat there, got my little QR code, and my subscribers are going way up here on the YouTube channel. Now, I don't know if some of these folks are from my Ubers, but if you are, just give me a shout out and say that. So, anyways, anywho, all right, now, so. Let's see what else caught my eye. All right, now the Pittsburgh Steelers. That was one of the games we picked last Thursday, and I tell you what, the Chargers, folks, were essentially down three starters on their offensive line, starting in from going into the preseason. The Rashawn Slater. And, of course, Joe Alt's out for the season. And I think the guy's name is Bobby Hart. I can't remember who it was. But the right tackle also did not play Sunday night. And I'm thinking to myself, as good as the Steelers played from a defensive perspective, as good as they played from a defensive perspective on the week prior to that, they should get this. They should be able to hold this team in check. If you look at some of the other games, that the struggle that Herbert's had without that line there, Amari Hamilton, leading running back, he's been down for weeks. Using this Vidal guy, and with all those Steeler fans up in LA, you would think, hey, Steelers got this, no problem. The light bulb went off. Maybe they'll carry the momentum from one game where they got 6 turnovers. I didn't expect them to get 6, but I expect them possibly to get 3. And, of course, that didn't happen. And, of course, they lose again. And, of course, Rodgers started to look like a 41-year-old quarterback. You got 3 sacks, 2 interceptions for Rodgers. And, of course, they lose 25-10. It's just going to be an everyday thing it's just going to be this is going to be a season-long thing for them. I mean, they're going to be up one week, down the next, up one week. They're going to get injured eventually because of age, and you're just going to have to wait this thing out. You'll have to wait it out. And, of course, they lose. Baltimore wins. They go on the road, as I said they would. They would go beat Minnesota. Go on the road, they beat Minnesota. And, of course, now you're back to square one. They sit on that 1-game lead. Can you trust the Steelers to do anything? Can you try? Now, I know one writer said something, I can't remember the guy's name, but he floated the idea of maybe Mike Tomlin going to the Giants for a change of scenery. And like I said, and, of course, I had my guy, I had Roy, my neighbor, and, of course, his brother Fred. Roy's a big Steelers fan. I said, yeah, that did look good, what Steelers did, but they are an older team. They're going to be up and down. They play up to the – now, there's underdogs in this game, of course. You never know what you're going to get from them, especially on the road. And, of course, that is what it is. It's going to be like this. Win or lose, and I said the same thing. I said they'll probably finish about 11-6, and that's being generous. But this team, they're going to have to blow this team up. They're going to be looking for a quarterback. Rodgers will probably retire. And, of course, Tomlin, you'll have him for another 2 years. And hopefully he would retire, but he's going to get his 20 in, and then he's going to retire. And then you'll have to wait 2 years to get him out of there. And, of course, get this team in and probably start from scratch and build around another coach and a quarterback. And that's just unfortunate. But it's wrong again. You just can't expect the unexpected with the Steelers. But for the most part, Rodgers can't move in the pocket no more. Not a really good running game there. Hardly any push there. They have to let that defense has to get turnovers. They're not a stop-you defense or 30th in total defense. So I do feel vindicated about my criticisms 2 weeks ago. And, of course, my man Roy didn't like that, and he came on out. Of course, I knew he'd come on. I wanted him to come on because I thought he'd be feeling good after that win against the Indianapolis Colts there a couple of weeks ago, which seems like ages ago. And who's to say they might not lose again to the Cincinnati Bengals this weekend? You can't predict this team. They look like they were playing flag football out there, if you ask me. All righty then. Let's see. Well, I guess that would lead me to the Power 5. If I can find my information here. Okay. Very impressed. I tell you what, I really have not shown. Here's my Power 5, folks. Starting now. Listen, I really haven't shown the Seattle Seahawks enough love over the past few weeks. It just looks like they're just getting, even though you say, well, they're playing against Arizona and New Orleans. I mean, they're blowing out the bad teams. And listen, we're going to find out a lot this weekend. I think they play the 49ers. Got 49ers coming up this weekend. That'll be one of the 5 biggest games coming up this weekend. And anywho. All right, now, so Seattle, I got them at number 5. They're the number 3 team in points per game. They're 5th points per game scored. They're 5th in points allowed. So balance on both sides of the ball. young defense, like I said, seem to be coming together into its own as we speak. Sam Darnold, 17 touchdowns, 6 interceptions. By the way, Jackson Smith-Njigba playing at a high level. Maybe the best receiver in the league for this particular year. A.J. Brown would love to have stats like this. Smith-Njigba, 68 catches. This guy's already got 1,041 yards there for Jackson Smith-Njigba there. Adding speed element. And I mentioned this last week at the trade deadline. Rashid Shaheed there from New Orleans at the trade deadline. So I've got Seattle, folks, as the number 5 team in my NFL Power 5. Number 4, Indianapolis. Would have them a little higher, but, DeForest Buckner is on he's on IR, so he's going to be out a minimum of about 4 weeks. So he'll miss the next 4 games. Still best in yards and scoring per game offensively, with Buckner back, with Sauce Gardner settled in at corner. It's going to take a few weeks here, folks, for Sauce Gardner to settle in to the defensive coordinator Lou Amorano's system here. But I tell you what, this team really, they are primed and ready to go. But even with Daniel Jones, they're primed and ready to go for a lone playoff run. I think they'll win this division. They keep creeping up in my NFL Power 5. So they're number 4. Now, Jones has had his turnovers lately. I understand that, but they did go overseas, and they did beat Atlanta. I think they got this week off. Did beat Atlanta. They're going to be a tough team to beat down the stretch. Now, they're beatable, of course, because we think Daniel Jones could go back to being Daniel Jones. He'd look like the old Daniel Jones against the Steelers there. I get it. But for the most part, the guy's having a comeback type of year. He's playing great. So I've got them at number 4, my NFL Power 5. Like I said, number 5, Seattle. Number 4, Indianapolis. So New England, listen, that was the most impressive win of the week, going down there to Tampa like that. Mind you, folks, Tampa coming off a bye week, playing at a really high level before that bye week, winning on the road, winning with multiple injuries, offensive line injuries, 2 receivers down, 3 receivers down. And the defense solid. Baker Mayfield, for a few weeks, they're playing at an MVP level. And New England, playing some tough games, had not had their bye week yet, goes down there and just flat out, Drake May played well. Mike Vrabel out coaching Todd Bowles there and beating a first place team like Tampa. They beat a first place Buffalo at the time there. Now they're in first place. And they're the number 2 overall seed in the AFC here. They just don't make a lot of mistakes. They're very physical. And Drake May, he's playing at a very high level. With subpar skill players, if you really think about it, the fact that he didn't even have, what's his name, Keyshawn Boot there, he was not there. And, of course, you're playing with the Stephon Diggs. It was past his prime there. Love that cornerback they've got there. And Gonzalez. So New England at number 3. And like I said, I made a note about Mike Vrabel. Excellent coaching job. Maybe with Kyle Shanahan up there with another, yes, folks, with another coach of the year. He won coach of the year with the Tennessee Titans. He very well may win coach of the year with the New England Patriots. I've got them as my number 3 team in the NFL Power 5. So, and just a side note about that particular game, I love the fact that there's like a minute 41 seconds left in the first half, Patriots got the ball. They're inside the 5-yard line. Tampa's used all their timeouts. They're already inside the 2-minute warning. And without scoring, they do just basically almost like a knee, like a fall forward type of play and let the clock run all the way out. And I think it's like 3rd or 4th down. May throws. This is very risky, but May throws a touchdown there at the very end, last play of the second half or first half. I thought that was really, really good clock management skills there by Mike Vrabel. Of course, they got the ball back in the second half. I mean, he's got this team clicking on all 8 right now. So they're number 3 in my NFL Power 5. Had to add that little nuance to it as well. Okay. Now the Rams look that much sharper, folks. Matt Stafford, 25 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. I mentioned Drake May, an outside, a potential MVP candidate. I mentioned before that, going back a few weeks, Baker Mayfield with all their injuries, the last-minute wins and all that, potential MVP candidate. Now the leader in the clubhouse. At this point, we're right at midway through the season here. I mean, Matt Stafford, man, I've overlooked this guy. 25 touchdowns here. 25 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Depending on how they finish, they do have some older players. I mean, definitely an MVP right there. 2nd in points allowed. 4th in plus-minus turnover. I mean, they just... other words, they win the turnover battle, the 4th best team in the NFL that wins the turnover battle. Puka Nacua is back. They have balance. They have experience. I could definitely see this team going on a Super Bowl run. They were in the divisional game last year. Come down to about a 1 throw. Puka catches that ball. Possibly they're going in to win this game and perhaps on their way to the Super Bowl. I'm sure they would have beat that. They would have beat that Commanders team last year. So Rams number 2, number 1 Philadelphia this week in the Power 5. Listen, great win at Green Bay. I mentioned Jalen Phillips in the trade deadline last week. Actually got a sack this past week. You saw him in the backfield. Great move. Another great move by Howie Roseman. I know that was a tough win. I knew Green Bay was going to show up to play. I was impressed with the win. And, of course, another big win. That was a divisional leader. Also, this team has beaten. They have beaten, although I think they could, if they play one more time, I do think it'll go the other way. They did beat the Rams, a top-notch team. They have beat the Green Bay Packers. They were in first place here. So, and now they got Detroit this week. Now, I don't know how they're going to play because they've got possibly Lane Johnson, right tackle there for the Eagles, maybe out. But that being said, they really don't have a weakness here. There's some inconsistencies in the running game here. Strong receiving core, strong secondary. Even added a running back there. Tank, was it Bigsby? The player they picked up there had made a few plays himself. Speedy player out of Jacksonville. Really like what they're doing. They're number 1 in my Power 5. Philadelphia number 1. Rams number 2. And, of course, number 3 is the New England Patriots. Number 4, make sure I get this right here. I've got so many notes here. Let's see, Indianapolis, and, of course, number 5, Seattle. That lays out my top 5 in my NFL Power 5. Okay, now, who is this asking me a question? Hey, how you doing? I don't know who this is. How are you? Baby boy, I love you. Jocelyn Brown. I don't know who these people are. I don't know if they're just trolling me or what. Anyways, just identify who you are. We'll give you a shout out. You can participate in the program. But anyways, okay. This like a, I wouldn't call it a Black Monday, but they happen on different days. Okay, now let's talk a little NBA. Mavs fired Nico Harrison. Fired him Tuesday after going 2-8 start. Now, of course, they don't have Kyrie Irving right now. He got injured, and somehow, I guess that the powers to be with the Dallas Mavericks expected 18-year-old Cooper Flag to run point there and keep this team afloat. I didn't think that when I made my predictions and talked about this team in the past. I just believe you get a sense here that there was just more of a rush there. There's putting too much faith in him. That being said, let me read over the rest of my notes here. You had the crowd here. Like I said, 2-8 start. The crowd practically every game. I'm seeing it on the internet. Channing fired Nico practically every game. And the fact that they got just one first-round pick for a 32-year-old, now going to be 33 early next year, Anthony Davis, and, of course, Max Chrisley was simply not enough. But the idea of continuing to hope, here's my thoughts on it, that Luka could come into the season in shape after every year after year, hoping that he does come in shape and don't get injured to start the season, with one full year left on his contract. I can kind of see why the idea for him to want to, trade Luka Doncic. Now, and so I get that. I said I get it. They should have got 4 or 5 picks out of the LA Lakers. They still got that 2029 first round pick, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. So you're 10 games in. You really didn't give a chance for Jason Kidd to, let him toy with this lineup a little bit. And possibly, you got the trade deadline coming up. You got this trade deadline coming up, of course, in March or whatever, late February, March. I don't know, it changes every year. Ja Morant's already made it known. He's already been suspended. It's just starting the season, new coach. Now he's kind of backing away, but all the indications are he's on the trade block. Possibly make a run at him. And, I just don't think, it just feels like it was a little bit premature. And I know that I'm pretty much out here by myself on this. I know that some other people had defended Nico. But the fact is, listen, yeah, they got to the finals, okay? But you can also, with Luka, but you can also credit Nico bringing in like Derek Lively or whatever. You can also credit him in with, it was a risky play bringing in guys. I think it was Lively, and he had another center at the trade deadline. But he also brought in Kyrie Irving, very controversial at the time. And, they got to the finals. You can credit him as just as much as you can credit Luka for doing what he did. But the fact is, hey, listen, it's not my money. It's not your money. But just think about this for a second. Do you really want to invest $250, $300 plus $1 million, whatever the supermax would be, into a guy that is constantly out of shape and getting worse and worse every year to start the season? I read a stat when all this went down last year around the springtime that Luka's not even dunking the basketball no more at one time because he's too big to get over the rim. And I know he plays himself into shape and everything, but I don't blame them. They just should have simply gotten more, So that I would have probably tried to let him foresee everything all the way through, maybe give him another year. That's all history. He's fired. Now I'm reading from Mark Stein that Anthony Davis, like I said, he's going to be 33 years old. Now he's on a trading block. So they're going to end up going in. So essentially, what they're going to do is they're going to move off Davis, probably move off Klay Thompson, probably move off Kyrie Irving. You got 30-something, 30-something, 30-something. Then you guys like P.J. Washington, Cooper Flagg, Derek Lively, young guy, 20-something. Try to build around that core, okay? But it looks like I was wrong. I thought they was going to be a strong playoff push, and they simply just none of that. 10 games in the season. Again, it just seems like it was just premature, in my opinion. So, anyways, now, as far as replacements are concerned here, it's interesting. I was reading on this. So this guy from Athletics says the Mavericks and Clutch Sports, that's the group representing. This all just broke here about an hour ago, by the way. Anthony Davis representation will work together on the Southern Weather pursuing a trade between now and the trade deadline per Mark Stein after defining Nico Harrison. May rival teams believe Davis will be shopped soon. And, there's going to be some takers out there. Could you see him in Miami helping that defense out? Could Miami go out and get him and maybe pair him with the Ja Morant? Okay. Could you see him at maybe a Minnesota? Somewhere like that. That would be interesting. I don't know. Maybe go to New York. Maybe in New York send some prospects, maybe a Towns down there. That would be interesting. Got to let this stuff play out here. So, anyways, I was looking at this Bovada, this is the odds market here. Who's going to be the next general manager of the Dallas Mavericks? And listen, I don't know what you hope that this is not the favorite here is Michael Finley. Well, Finley is on the staff of Nico Harrison. I never do like hiring a guy that's on the staff. Okay, you fire a person and you hire the assistant coach. It's like hiring the interim coach. If you want a different direction, go out and get a different direction. So Michael Finley would be out. It's got this Matt Ricarda and Dennis Lindsay. Both of those guys are also on the staff there with the Dallas Mavericks. Now, at plus 1,000, you got Bob Myers. Now, that would be interesting. And that's the former general manager of the Golden State Warriors. He didn't want to go through the process of having to break the Warrior team, which he should have. They're older, and I keep saying that, they're making the playoffs. You get smoked because they're older, man, mid-30s. That would be the number one guy, and I'm sure I'm going to jack this guy's name up, but he's a former guy, general manager, I want to say, with Toronto, Mesa Ura. Those two guys would be my top front runners if I'm Dallas right now. Of course, they also put down Mark Cuban at plus 1,800 now. Mark Cuban may try that, but I don't know. Mark Cuban's got so many businesses going on. I know he knows basketball, but I don't know if Mark Cuban would jump in that boat or not. This person says, what's up? Hey, who is this, man? What's up with you? Not sure who all these people are coming on my feed here. But either way, I'll take it. I'll take the engagement if you really want to ask me questions about about my topics here on the program. Okay. In other news, just a side note here, just stumbled upon the channel for the first time. Hey, how you doing, Ryan? Appreciate you. Please like and subscribe, brother. Tomorrow we'll be picking the 5 biggest games in the NFL, myself and the Mad New Yorker. And I've got, I've had some great interviews here. Go check out, there's been talk that John Gruden's itching to get back in the NFL, possibly college. There's plenty of job openings. there's more to become. And I had a segment there with a friend of mine, neighbor Roy, and his brother Fred. And it's under my videos. It's asking two black guys, would they play for John Gruden or forgive him and play for him? Going back to his emails where he made some racial comments about the former a black guy head of the players union in the NFL. That's pretty good feedback there with those two guys. That was, for instance, last week. And, of course, I've got great interviews going back to the great Jim Jeffcoat to play with the 92-93 Cowboys and won the Super Bowl. So, Ryan, or Rabe 7949, please subscribe to the channel. Appreciate it. And check out some of my previous shows. Okay, since I got a little time left here. All right, now, Bleacher Report is saying that Anthony Joseph and Jake Paul, Anthony Joseph, that's a real fighter. I want to say he was champion at one point of his weight class. Anthony Joseph and Jake Paul are finalizing a deal for a heavyweight fight. Yeah, he was heavyweight champion at one time. He was heavyweight champion at one time, and possibly a Bleacher Report saying Anthony Joseph, Jake Paul finalizing a deal for a heavyweight fight on Netflix in December in Miami. Okay. Now, that one would be worth fighting. Now he's fighting somebody that can possibly beat him. I thought maybe Tyson would. Then I started looking at some of Tyson, where he's talking about his health problems and age and everything. Now, this would be a really good fight. But if you remember, he might be able to beat Joseph. What's this guy's name? Was it David Ruiz? I want to say. I looked this up the other day, or earlier this day, today. And I looked under fat guy who knocked out Anthony Joseph. And I think his name was David Ruiz. Back about 6 or 7 years ago, I want to say. ASHA. What was that name? Andy Ruiz Jr. No offense to Andy Ruiz. Mexican fighter there with his quick hands. Boxer described as a fat guy who knocked out Anthony Joseph is Anthony Ruiz. Famous defeated Joseph in an upset in June of 2019 while both fighters were heavyweights. Ruiz has a stockier build and was notably carrying more body fat than Joseph, which is likely the reason for the description. But you know what? He was a chunky guy, but he had quick hands. And Joseph, this perfect. Now, I think Joseph fought him again and beat him, but either way, and Joseph later ended up in losing. And he knocked Joseph out. I thought it was really good. Hey, never underestimate you. And that's rule number one in athletics, whether you're a fighter, whether you're NFL, baseball, especially if they're professional, never underestimate your opponent. So this guy, supposedly Joseph, going to fight. Now, I'd kind of like to see him fight the current heavyweight champion next. If Jake Paul wants to do that, I think that would be great. I'd probably order Netflix to watch that. Of course, that's going to be in December. At the end of the month, I'll probably order Netflix to watch the what is it? Stranger Things coming up later on this month, at the end of the month anyways, and just leave it on there and watch. And, of course, it'll be late at night like they always do. It'll be so far late. It's going to be fought Miami. Maybe it won't be so late. Usually these fights are, a lot of these times these fights are in Vegas, like the Terrence Crawford fight was when he fought Canelo. And it was like, 1 o'clock in the morning or something. 1, 2 o'clock in the morning if you're on a Central time zone. At midnight if you're on Central. And even on a Saturday night, that gets pretty late for me. But anyways, it would be worth watching here, folks. By the way, side note here, we mentioned Mike McCarthy. According to Pro Football Focus, He's an early betting favorite to coach the Giants. Consider his record 185, 123, and 2. The Giants' performance since 2012 is 83, 147 losses and 1 tie. I mean, they have really fallen off. And also, I'll mention guys like Jeff Brom, the coach of Louisville. Side note here, On3 is reporting that they're working on a contract extension to keep him up at Louisville. I think that he would be an excellent fit down at Florida. If Florida can't get Lane Kiffin and whatnot, this guy, Jeff Braun, would be excellent. I would not sign that extension. I would possibly listen if Florida wanted to talk and go down there and coach DJ Lagway, the quarterback down there in Florida. That's just my opinion. Okay? Folks, I appreciate everybody jumping up on my channel tonight. It's popping, and I don't know what it is. But anyway, maybe it was a Nico. A lot of people wanted to talk about that Nico Harrison thing. Bob Myers or Uri, the former Toronto Raptors general manager. Those would be my two favorites. As far as the New York Giants is concerned, Josh McCown as my offensive coordinator, Brian Flores, the defensive coordinator with Minnesota. That would be the two guys I would look to take that Giants job so Flores can tighten that defense up. And Sean McDermott, I would let him go at the end of the year. I don't think they're going to, unless they win the Super Bowl. I will go after Bill Belichick and bring Brian DeBall back as the offensive coordinator. Those are my big hot takes for tonight. Of course, you've already heard my NFL Power 5. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Listen, if you're a Spotify person, at The Real Sports Scope, you can find me on Spotify. Also, as well, look for Robert Butler on Facebook, at rbutler723, verified on the X app as well. So I really appreciate everybody. Like I said, it's a big crowd tonight. I appreciate all the engagement and viewers this evening. And again, I'll be back here tomorrow arguing with the Mad New Yorker. He's gonna have a lot of opinions about this Brian DeBall with the New York Giants situation as well. Okay, yeah, he's a smart guy. Oh, DeBall. All right, gotcha, folks. Well, have a good night, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow. Otherwise, let me play this soundbite before I leave. This is Nico Harrison asking the question. Answer the question about why he shouldn't be fired back in April. Almost forgot.
Why shouldn't you be fired?
Well, one, I think I've done a really good job here, and I don't think I can be judged by the injuries this year. You have to judge from totality, from beginning to end, and so I think I have a really good working relationship with Patrick. I think you add in Rick, the leadership that we have is really elite, and you'll see next year when our team comes back, we're going to be competing for a championship.
They fired him for not delivering on that. I mean, Jesus, 10 games in. So have a good night, everybody. I'll see you again tomorrow, same time, same place, here on The Real Sports.